Right, so picture this. You wake up Wednesday morning, make yourself a cuppa, flip on Good Morning Britain, expecting the usual chaos, and what do you get? Keir Starmer's government casually announcing they're postponing elections because, and I'm paraphrasing here, they reckon people might actually vote against them if given the chance. Absolutely wild scenes. It's like watching someone lose at Monopoly and then just deciding to change the rules halfway through because Park Lane isn't working out for them anymore. Welcome back to UK Political Insight, where we document every single facet of this government's ongoing masterclass and how to absolutely bin your own credibility. And trust me, today's episode is a proper banger. But before we proceed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more updates on this channel. Thank you. So, let's set the scene. Good Morning Britain, Wednesday morning, reporter Nitya Rajan standing outside Westminster looking like she can barely believe the words coming out of her own mouth. She's explaining that Labour is planning to delay mayoral elections across multiple regions by up to 2 years. Not a few months, not a tactical shuffle, 2 entire years. Elections that were supposed to happen next year are now being shoved all the way to 2028. And the justification? Oh, you're going to love this. They need more time for these newly elected mayoral positions to reorganize, more time to settle in, more time to, and I'm reading between the lines here, not get absolutely obliterated at the ballot box. Now, if you've been paying attention, and I know you have because you're here, you'll remember that this isn't even the first time Labour's pulled this stunt. Back in February, they canceled local elections that were supposed to happen in May, just straight up postponed them to the following year. So we've got a pattern emerging here. Elections scheduled, polls looking grim. Suddenly, those elections need to be delayed for very important democratic reasons that definitely have nothing to do with Labour being terrified of what voters might actually say given half a chance. The reporter showed a map of all the regions getting affected by this, and it's not just 1 or 2 places. We're talking multiple mayoral positions across the country, all getting their democratic moment pushed back because apparently the government needs breathing room. It's like a student asking for an extension on their dissertation, except instead of needing more time to research, they just haven't done the work and they're hoping if they wait long enough, maybe the professor will forget they enrolled in the first place. Good Morning Britain viewers were having absolutely none of it. And when I say none of it, I mean the reaction was volcanic. People were flooding X, which we all still accidentally call Twitter, with responses that ranged from furious to apocalyptic. One viewer wrote that Starmer will want to cancel the general election until 2040 and called him a vile dictator. Another said it shows absolute cowardice and pure socialist dictatorship traits. If you know you're going to lose, don't hold an election. This will backfire. Yet again, another disaster by this calamitous government. And honestly, when regular viewers of Good Morning Britain are using phrases like socialist dictatorship, you know something's gone properly sideways. The theme running through all these reactions is the same. People aren't stupid. They can see exactly what's happening here. This isn't about giving mayors more time to settle in or reorganize or whatever corporate jargon Labour's media team cooked up. This is about a government looking at the polling data, seeing the electoral equivalent of an incoming asteroid, and desperately trying to postpone Impact Day for as long as humanly possible. One viewer summed it up perfectly when they said, the only reason elections are being delayed is that Labour is going to be destroyed. Another asked, how is this even legal, and called it totally undemocratic, adding that it's exhausting watching one bad move after another from this government. And that word exhausting really captures the mood, doesn't it? It's not even shock anymore. It's just this weary resignation that, yes, of course they're postponing elections. Of course they are. What else would they do? Actually listen to voters? Don't be ridiculous. But here's where it gets even better. The opposition parties are absolutely tearing into this. Reform UK's Ziha Yusuf came out swinging, and I mean properly swinging. He said what Labour's actually saying is they need more time for a government initiative to be completed, therefore they don't want to give people the chance to vote. He called it nonsense, a disgrace, and a deeply dangerous time for Britain. And you know what? He's got a point. When a government starts unilaterally deciding that democracy can wait because the timing's not convenient for them, that's not just bad politics, that's genuinely worrying. That's banana republic behavior dressed up in a suit and tie. Then you've got James Cleverly calling it a scandalous attempt to subvert democracy by a Labour government whose credibility and popularity are already in tatters. He said there's no credible justification and demanded they reverse it immediately. Now, I know Cleverly's the opposition, so he's supposed to say stuff like this, but even accounting for political theater, he's not wrong. There genuinely isn't a credible justification. The excuses Labour's trotting out are so thin you could see through them if you held them up to a light. Let's talk about what this actually means, because beyond the outrage and the political point scoring, there's a real issue here. Mayoral elections matter. These aren't symbolic positions. Mayors have genuine power over transport, housing, economic development, policing in some cases. They make decisions that affect millions of people's daily lives, and those people deserve the chance to hold them accountable at regular intervals. That's literally the foundation of representative democracy. You elect someone, they do the job, then you get to decide whether they've done it well enough to deserve another go. It's not complicated. By postponing these elections, Labour isn't just buying themselves time, they're denying voters their say. They're extending the mandates of mayors who might be doing a terrible job without giving constituents any recourse. And they're doing it because the alternative, letting people actually vote, is too politically dangerous for them to contemplate. If that doesn't make your blood boil just a little bit, I don't know what will. One viewer made an absolutely brilliant point when they said, when a government delays elections, the opposition calls it scandalous, the public calls it suspicious, and the ministers call it necessary. Democracy delayed is rarely democracy defended. That line, democracy delayed is rarely democracy defended, should be carved into the wall at Westminster because it's the truth. Every time a government postpones elections for supposedly practical reasons, it erodes trust. It sends a message that voting only matters when the people in power think they'll win. And here's the thing that Labour doesn't understand. This won't work. Multiple viewers pointed this out. One said they can delay it as much as they want, they're still toast. If they think reform are going to drop off in the polls, they're deluded. Another said it just gives Labour more time to lie, smear, and discredit reform, but that it won't work, and they're right. Postponing an election doesn't make your problems go away, it just gives voters more time to get angrier, more time to watch you mess things up, more time to decide that actually they really, really want you gone. Think about it from Labour's perspective for a second. They're sitting in government, watching their poll numbers crater. Every policy announcement seems to make things worse. Every budget sparks a rebellion. Every week brings fresh humiliation. So someone in a strategy meeting says, right, we've got mayoral elections coming up and we're going to get destroyed. What do? And instead of thinking, maybe we should govern better, maybe we should listen to voters, maybe we should actually deliver on what we promised, they think, let's just not have the elections, problem solved. Except the problem isn't solved, it's just been given 2 more years to fester. The comparison to dictatorships isn't as hyperbolic as it might initially sound. Obviously, Britain isn't a dictatorship. We've got a functioning parliament, independent courts, free press, all of that. But postponing elections because you're scared of losing them is absolutely a page from the authoritarian playbook. It's what you do when you value holding power more than you value democratic legitimacy. And the fact that Labour thinks they can get away with this, that they can just announce it on Good Morning Britain like it's a minor administrative tweak, shows how disconnected they are from public sentiment. What makes this even galling is the sheer arrogance of it. Labour won the last general election. They've got a massive majority in Parliament. They should be confidently implementing their agenda, building support, governing effectively. Instead, they're so terrified of facing voters in local mayoral elections that they're running away from democracy itself. It's cowardice dressed up in prudence. It's weakness masquerading as strategy. And the timing, as multiple people have pointed out, stinks. They already postponed local elections earlier this year. Now they're postponing mayoral elections. At what point does this stop being about practical concerns and start being a pattern of avoiding accountability? When do we acknowledge that Labour is systematically pushing back every electoral test because they know they'll fail? The public reaction tells you everything you need to know. These aren't political obsessives or opposition activists. These are Good Morning Britain viewers, regular people watching breakfast television, and they're outraged. They're calling it undemocratic, dictatorial, cowardly. That's not a fringe opinion. That's mainstream frustration boiling over. And if Labour thinks they can weather this storm by just waiting it out, they're in for a nasty surprise. Here's what's going to happen. They'll postpone these elections. There'll be outrage for a few days, maybe a week. Then it'll fade from the headlines because something else will go wrong, because something always goes wrong with this government. But voters won't forget. They'll remember that when Labour got scared, they canceled democracy. They'll remember that when given the choice between facing the electorate and running away, Starmer chose to run. And when the next election finally does come, whether it's in 2028 or earlier, that memory will be there, filed away in the mental ledger marked "Reasons Not to Trust These People." The Reform UK angle is particularly interesting because Ziha Yousaf's right to call this dangerous. If you're a smaller party trying to build support, postponing elections is devastating. It freezes the political landscape in place, denies you opportunities to win seats, stops your momentum dead. And conveniently, Reform has been surging in the polls. They've been building support, winning over disillusioned voters.